The lights are off and away they go.
Extremely loose. He's managed to hold on and they get.
He missed the complete. He's crazy.
Side Freitas is on the grass on the infield for 4. He slides through. He tags Richard Eck.
Welcome to DIYSim.com, your source for your entire do-it-yourself simulator building experience. Whether your goal is to build a full-motion flight simulation cockpit with all 6 degrees of freedom, or find plans to build a full-motion racing simulation cockpit with anywhere from 1 degree of freedom all the way up to 6, DIY Sim has the products, plans, and resources to help you make it happen. Our DIY Sim brand is backed by one of the most innovative sim building organizations in the world. Simcraft creates driver, in-the-loop simulators with proper kinetics for motion simulation, a technology that is unique to Simcraft and which accurately recreates high-speed vehicle dynamics. Simcraft simulator systems enable drivers to develop and enhance their car control skills efficiently and effectively, any track, any car, any day, all day. DIYSim.com has it all. Please start and finish your sim building experiences with us.
Only 2 rounds remain for this season in the VSRA, and the battle for the championship is down to 2 drivers as well. A pair of Brazilians go head-to-head to claim the crown, and today they'll travel north to fight it out at the popular Road America in Elkhart Lake, Wisconsin. We'll see who comes out on top as we watch round 8 of the DIYSim.com American Road Tour live on the Global Sim Racing channel. I'm Joe Peak. With me in the booth is Ayrton Ellis and Bill Zahn. As always, our cameras have been provided by Dougie Beard and are directed by Kevin Brown. Ayrton, we've seen numerous series come up here to Elkhart Lake, which can attest to the popularity of this circuit.
Yeah, Joe, it's one of the longest tracks on the iRacing surface. It's just over 4 miles long, also 6.5 kilometers, and has 14 turns and has quite long straights and quite a few elevation changes as well. So a lot of variety there. And we're going to be running a 45-minute race here in the Riley DP, and these guys are going to have to make at least 1 pit stop throughout the course of the race.
Well, it's one thing to look at it from above, but let's hop down on board and see what it's like in one of these DPs in a lap around Road America. Alright, we've got Kevin Brown behind the wheel of the GSRC DP, so let's do a lap around Road America. The front stretch is one of the longest straightaways of the course, so we'll be carrying a lot of speed in turn 1. In fact, turn 1 is deceptively fast, so take care with passes. Both drivers will need to play nice to avoid contact. The grass at the exit can make spins easy, so try not to push wide to keep the car out of the barriers. Now we drop downhill towards turn 3, which will be critical during the race. It leads onto the moraine sweep and down towards turn 5, which is the most popular passing zone. That means if you botch the exit of 3, you'll be a sitting duck to any car behind you with a better run. But turn 5 isn't a slam dunk either. It's a downhill braking zone and extremely easy to overshoot the corner. You'll see even Kevin comes in a little too hot, misses the apex, and then gets loose. No time to rest though, because then you're braking right at the crest for 6. The car will get light and the arrow won't help you, so expect many drivers to have difficulty navigating that one. We've got a little lift for the fast kink of 7, and once again, try to keep those tires on the black stuff, or risk losing control. Now we're into the hurry downs. Turn 8 offers some passing opportunities if you're sneaky, but this is another corner where it's easy to get more ambitious than you are skilled. After that, we now hit the carousel. This is an agonizingly long downhill turn. You've got to wait and wait and wait, and finally you can get on the power to take you onto the last long straight of the circuit. But this also includes the fearsome kink. Most drivers will be lifting through here, but it is possible to take it flat out if you hit it just right. The track is going to wind through the trees in a section called the Kettle Bottoms, and then we brake heavily for Canada Corner. This is your last good spot in the lap for a pass attempt, so expect to see drivers making moves here late in the race. Now we start climbing uphill again, and just lift for the blind turn 13. Then you've got the tricky curved braking zone of the final corner. Don't worry about carrying speed in. The big thing here is launching yourself out of it. It's a steep climb up the pit straight, and drafting will be a factor. Once again, you'll be vulnerable with a bad exit. But after 4 whole miles, you've finished a lap around Road America. As you can see, it's a pretty long lap around here. In fact, it's so long that in all the time that we have been on air, the drivers have been out qualifying, and only just now we've got 3 drivers who put a lap in, now 5. So that's how long it takes just to get around here. But let's switch over to the championship, and Bill, what is it looking like right now?
Well, Joe, Ayrton, and everyone else, we're in the land of cheese, and I contest that cheese makes everything better. You can put it on your salad, to your spaghetti, well, you pick anything, to your pizza, cheese. You can have cheesecake. And being better is what it's all about today. Let's look at these stats here that we can bring up, the standings that are brought to you by Sherman and Poindexter, our stat guys back in the GSRC campus. If you look at this, now you're only going to see these numbers here exclusively on GSRC. Where we're going to take into account the dropped races. Now, if you look at this, you see Bilal at the top of the chart, but Rossetto is only 4 points back. Now, we talked about being better. Rossetto doesn't need to win today. He doesn't need to be better than everybody. All he needs to do is be better than Alex Bilal, and that's his goal. In fact, he has teammates that are going to help him do that. Now, if we go down the chart a little bit more, Daniel Santos is in third, 31 points back. Anderson Mota, 38 back. And wrapping up our first U.S. driver, Kyle Potts, 39 points back. So it's going to be interesting to see if Rossetto, all he's going to do is keep an eye on Bilal and try to get ahead of him. We only have 1 race to go, and it could come down to that final race. Joe, back to you.
Indeed, we'll have to watch and see what the points look when it comes to the end of this thing, because we could see even as close as a tie between our top 2 drivers, depending on how it finishes and how many drivers show up today. And also, you might note with our graphic on the screen that those points are in fact brought to you by DIYsim.com, the official sponsor of the American Road Tour. Definitely go and give their website a look. So as we watch Brian Shanahan work his way around qualifying, let's talk about some of the points that we need to worry about during this race, the drivers need to pay attention to. And Ayrton, one of the big ones is, of course, passing. That is going to be a little bit easier here than at other courses.
Yeah, this track has a lot of really long straights and also has fantastic passing opportunities. So I won't be surprised if these guys are going to be battling, switching positions a lot throughout the course of this race. The key opportunities are going to be definitely turn 1 after that long front stretch, and also turn 5. That has a really long stretch too. We might even see some 3 wide scenarios going into that corner, but that'll be risky. But there's a lot of really fast corners as well. So there's corners that are good for passing, but also corners that are very close to the wall, and that can also cause a lot of incidents. We've seen a lot of crashes around this track, especially in corners like Canada Corner, where guys make dive bombs to the inside. So I won't be surprised if we see good racing, but I also won't be surprised if we see a lot of wrecks.
Absolutely. And Bill, there's some serious danger zones around this track.
Yeah, now it's a beautiful track. And, some of the walls are so close that drivers... Now, this series has no fast repairs. If you put it in the wall, you're done. And with the points being so close, they really have to be careful about, if you're gonna make a mistake, you want to make it in a place where you can not end your day. And my gosh, there's some scary parts on this long road course that are frightening, even when you're just driving it as a sim racer. It still makes you kind of shake a little bit. So these guys, when the season started, they were very aggressive, and the last couple races things have settled down a little bit. I think they're getting used to driving the Rileys compared to last season when they were driving the Z4. So I think we're going to be okay today, Joe.
Yeah, I mean, they don't have to worry about making too many foolish moves, since there's going to be opportunities to try and get it done, as Ayrton was saying. So there will be chances if you get a little bit away from somebody. So, we were talking about the championship before, and also I believe it was Bill touched on the fact that our 2 main competitors only have to worry about each other, but they do have some teammates, Ayrton, and one of those in particular that came into play last time was Santos.
Yeah, that's definitely an interesting thing. Some of these guys do have teammates. Santos and Blau are teammates, and what we saw at Indianapolis was Santos actually decided not to pass Blau, give him the points positions in order to keep that lead ahead of Rossetto. So that can actually come into play, because we actually do have quite a lot of fast drivers who are not competing in the championship. One of those guys is Wendell Parra. I'm not sure which team he's on, but he's not in the championship contention, but I mean, he's qualifying He's on top of the qualifying charts at the moment, so he could definitely be a big factor in this race.
Very much so, and we need to watch out for those fast guys and see where they are just here for the win at this point, with most of our championship leaders being too far away from anybody to hope to try and get the championship. There's still many that are mathematically able to win, but it's going to take quite a lot for them to make it to happen. The other thing to worry about, Bill, we talked about some of those very dangerous zones with very little runoff, is the fuel around here. We've seen that bite drivers before.
Yeah, pit stop strategy has evolved through the season to where we go from the first race where they weren't sure whether they're going to take tires. Some people only took front tires, and it was a disaster. One of the interesting features that this series allows is that drivers can actually come in and pit. We've talked about this the last couple races. Come in and pit actually when the green flag is being thrown, before they actually cross the start-finish line to start the race. They duck in, take their pit stop, and they go the distance. We'll see. Since not too many people are changing tires anymore, that strategy seems to be a little more effective. It certainly works for John Kelly, and he's here today.
Yeah, he's been kind of notorious for really making it a popular strategy and making it work, we have to say. So we'll see if anybody decides to try and make that run by themselves for as much of the race as they can. As we watch Hiro Kanaya on the screen, he's another back marker usually, and he actually dips into the pits and spins and manages to find the tire barrier. So that was an interesting maneuver, but let's switch over to Ruben Velasco, and actually Matt Malone, excuse me, we've got on screen right now. So, and Bill, I see you mentioned an interesting point in our chat here about the point situation. I think that needs to be considered as well.
Yeah, let's go ahead and take a second. We'll talk about how drop races work. Basically, there's 9 races in this season, and the drivers get to take it's best 8 out of 9. You take your best 8 results. Now, Alex Bilbao has been in every race, and he is actually dropping, while most of his competitors are dropping no-shows or races where they had horrible results. Alex Bilbao actually has 50 points in his pocket. So even if something horrendous happens, a Godzilla rises from the ocean and steps on his house and he ends up in last place, he's still going to be able to drop that 50 points that he has. He's going to have that 50 points in his pocket. So even if he has to drop this race from a horrible finish, he's still going to be in pretty good shape no matter what happens.
I have to admit, I haven't seen a Brazilian version of Godzilla, so I'm not sure how that would actually be on screen.
El Godzilla!
Yeah, there we go. But we're watching Eduardo Tomere, and I'm just letting a little bit more time go by so that we get some laps in, because we might as well just wait until the pace lap for these for qualifying, since this is such a long lap for these guys to go around, and we want everything to be solidified. But right now, just before qualifying is over, we do see that Bruno Rossetto is topping the time. So very interesting. Our chaser in the championship is currently on top in qualifying, and that could have big implications. In fact, I see neither Rossetto or Bilbao on screen, so they have actually finished. So Rossetto will, regardless, start the race ahead of Bilbao at this point. Watching Daniel Santos, who's actually qualified ahead of his teammates, currently sitting in third. So we've got just about 2 more minutes left in qualifying. And Ayrton, it looks like you had noticed something?
Yeah, well, I was just thinking, with Rossetto, he's, at the moment, he's scored on first. Alex Blau scored in 4th, and I think that's actually a really good position, because so far of what I've seen this season, Rossetto, he's very good at getting through traffic, and he's also, if he starts in the lead, he's run away with races very easily. What comes to mind is Daytona, where he just ran away with the win, while Alex Blau has kind of struggled at the start of races a lot this season. So I think Rossetto really has to use this opportunity of starting ahead of Bilbao and maybe getting an advantage at the beginning of this race.
Very much so. And we can't forget about, as well, the dark horses, Bill.
Yeah, I think one guy that we're going to keep an eye on is Jonathan Scalaro, the New York pharmaceutical representative. He's been fast. Now, he hasn't been around too much the last couple races, but in the middle of the season, he was popping up and giving these Brazilians a run for their money. Now, in his qualifying time right now, he's down in ninth position, but he's still only he's in the ballpark. And with the draft here, actually with the draft here at this track, I think he could play a factor. So we're going to keep an eye on Jonathan.
He was at the top of the practice timesheets for quite a while until he got bumped down to 7th later on in the session, which again, still 7th is nothing to scoff at. And the one that I want to watch is actually Kyle Potts. He finally got his first podium in race 6, and unfortunately wasn't able to do the same race 7, but he is 5th in the points. He's currently sitting 5th in qualifying, so Potts is someone who could potentially be up there and competing. We're watching Romer Alcala currently sitting in 19th, and actually, if I'm looking at correctly, Alcala has had a podium as well, and I believe it is a second place finish that he's managed to get. And it looks like qualifying is over, so they are lining up on the grid. And we do have a solid timesheet for qualifying now that we can go through. So on top, on pole, is our championship chaser, Bruno Rossetto. Then beside him on the front row is Wendell Pera. In third, it's Daniel Santos with his teammate Alex Palau rounding out the second row. Kyle Potts is sitting in 5th with Leandro Schmidt in 6th. Ruben Velasco starts in 7th place with Guillermo Lete in 8th. Then it's the dark horse of Jonathan Scorallo sitting in 9th, and Matthew Thill is in 10th.
In 11th is Derek Walker, Eduardo Timetti in 12th in the Baker's Dozen spot, Mark Zadler. 14th is Anderson Moda. Boy, that's kind of down for Anderson there. I'm surprised to see him that low. 15th is Matt Malone. 16th is Samuel Ryman. 17th is Lance Snyder, followed by Dustin Wardlow. In 19th is Romer Alcala. And wrapping up the top 20, Bruce Poole. Ayrton?
Then in 21st is Mark Robertson. 22nd, Marcel Erzon. John LaBaff's in 23rd. Then George Fike in 24th. Brian Shanahan in 25th. Lee McGovern in 26th. Michael Gorelski in 27th, and then a few non-qualifiers, John Kelly, Hiro Kanaya, and Patrick Nguyen.
And Joe, look at Alex Palau in 4th position.
Yeah, it struck me as if we could zoom in on those front 2 rows there. Notice that Palau and Santos, and unfortunately it sounds like we won't be able to get a little bit of a closer shot. There we go. You can see, look at that. 2 teammates, 2 by 2 there, Ayrton. It's interesting how that turned out.
Yeah, and I wouldn't be surprised if we see some team tactics here. They can just stick together and focus on getting through traffic on their own. Maybe even try to fit pit strategies together and come into the pits at the same time so they can take advantage of using the draft instead of having to drive alone for too long.
Yeah, I almost wonder if during qualifying that teammates were using each other to get a bit of... Well, actually, no, I take that back. I'm making myself sound silly. It's lone qualifying in the series, so nobody was able to get a draft with one another. But still, very curious that they were able to get times so similar to each other. So we'll have to see how that plays out as we ride along with the chopper and the pace car leads them around on the pace lap. You guys know it's coming. It's the traditional question during the pace lap. Bill, who's your pick today?
God, I hate to...
Is this agonizing?
It is. Well, I hate to be predictable. I hate to do this to Ayrton all the time, but I'm taking the guy on the pole. Sorry, it's Bruno Rossetto. Ayrton, who do you think?
I also had to pick that one. Well, okay, I'm not going to pick Santos because I feel like if he's ever in a situation battling with Palau, he's going to let Palau have the position. So I'm going to go with Para because I think he has nothing to lose, so he's going to go all out for that win.
Yeah, I wouldn't put it past him as well, although he may play the supporting role. I think that it's time for Alex Palau to get a bounce back, so I'm going to say that he needs that momentum. If he wants to make something happen in this championship, he needs it now, so my vote goes with Palau. As we watch the cars go through Turn 5, just want to remind you one last time that if you want to get a hold of the Global Sim Racing channel, especially during the race, you can contact us through the YouTube comments or on Twitter at GSR channel. We try and watch that, and we can answer questions live on air if we find time. We'll see how hectic the race is. However, if you want to get a hold of us and find out what's going on in the world of GSRC, you can find us on Facebook at /Global Sim Racing Channel. So we are going to see how that winds up, and we'll try to answer your questions live on air if we find time. Now, I'm looking down the field. I see that John Kelly and Hiro Kanaya did join up, but I do not see Patrick Nguyen, so we have a 29-car field out there. And speaking of Kanaya, Bill, what's the over-under today?
Okay, the Kanaya over-under is 23.5, and let's look for John Kelly to make that early pit stop from where he's starting.
So 23.5. Okay, you'have got me curious. How does that work?
Well, 23. You can go 23 or 24. I don't want to push, so it's 23.5.
All right. Well, and Ayrton's actually picked out an interesting stat as well. If you wanted to share that with us.
Yeah, well, Bilal's average starting position this season is actually second place, and he's gotten 5 poles already this season out of 7 races, so him starting 4th place might actually show a little bit of weakness on this track.
Very interesting indeed as we head down the Kettle Bottoms towards Canada Corner. As we said, one of the potential passing zones you have to watch out for today. You'll see a lot of guys attempting moves down into this very slow right-hand corner at the end of a very long straight. You can get a sense now as we watch the cars go by how big this field is. So only a couple more corners to go, and then Rossetto is going to be able to take us away for 45 minutes of round 8, the penultimate round of the VSRA DIYSim.com American Road Tour. Last corner as the pace car now rounds it up onto the front stretch, a very steep and long uphill portion. As the guys all square up, get ready to go. Pace car peels off. Wow, and they get slowed up a bunch. In fact, cars are making contact back in the field, and we've got Lance Snyder off, turned around a number of cars, and now we get a green flag. Slowed things down way too much, I think, as Bruno Rossetto leads them off and away, followed by Wendell Para. Third is Daniel Santos, and Alex Bilal brings up 4th with Leandro Schmidt in 5th, and he's already got a dive up the inside from one of the cars of Guilherme Leite.
Oh, Velasco almost ran into the back of Kyle Potts. He went off in turn 1. He's not dropping back.
So an incredibly hectic start before we even get the green flag, and already we are onto the Moraine sweep, Bill. Question is, are we going to see some passes as we see some action farther back in the pack?
Oh my gosh, so that was a NASCAR brake check that accordioned everybody up back in the field.
Up at the front, we saw an attempt by Santos there. Coming down, we've got Kyle Potts heading up the inside of Guilherme Leite. It looks like he's able to get a position there into turn 5, but it's not over yet as they are side by side through turn 6, and now Potty is able to finally claim that position. So now heading down into the hurried downs, we still have Rossetto in the lead. In fact, he is building a handicap as Para is playing wingman and starting to back up the field. In fact, 3 cars of the opposing team of Daniel Santos, Alex Bilal, and Leandro Schmidt all starting to lose ground on Rossetto.
Guy we were keeping an eye on, Jonathan Scalaro, is holding his position in 9th place. It was pretty clean for the first lap, other than the chaos that happened before the green flew.
So a number of guys going to have to recover. Meanwhile, Scalaro looking on the outside of Leite down into Canada Corner. We can see him just out of the corner of the screen, and it looks like Leite was able to hold on to it. And we're trying to see if we can figure out who brake checked the entire field. I think, actually, it looked like the leaders slowed everybody up, so I'm not sure if it was the front row or what that caused that. But we'll see if we can send someone back to maybe figure that one out, and also who all was involved and lost positions to that. So after one lap down now, down into lap 2, Bruno Rossetto still leads the way. Wendell Para still leads the 3rd place car of Daniel Santos, and Alex Bilal in 4th line, Leandro Schmidt in 5th, Ayrton.
Yeah, and just going back to that before the green incident, I think you're right. It was just the leaders. Rossetto decided to really check up the field before the green flag. I think most of the field just didn't expect it, and they were coming out of the final corner too quickly and just had contact with each other. So it just caused a little bit of hesitancy amongst a lot of the drivers.
Yeah, Ayrton, it looked like he slowed him down to like 30 miles an hour there for a good 5-6 seconds.
Yeah, we're going to see if we can get a replay of it. A little bit earlier we saw Matthew Thill, and as we do that, Scarallo actually half spins. So as we try and see if we can find that replay, looks like no, we're not going to be able to get it. But Scarallo has lost a number of positions. In fact, he is all the way down into 19th. So we're hearing that we've got one pitter, Ayrton. What do you see?
Samuel Ryman has gone into the pits.
So Samuel Ryman, a newcomer to the series, obviously trying an alternate strategy as we watch Scarallo go off track, heading out of the Hurry Downs into the carousel. And he is under threat from the green car behind him. Meanwhile, let's jump over to Derek Waller, actually, who is in quite a fierce battle with Ruben Velasco and Edward Guadalupe. Looks like there's damage on Tomate, and there's going to be more damage as he gets hit in the side by Velasco and then runs into Derek Waller. Waller then slams into the tire barrier. That is not a good start. As we look at the replay.
Impatient move from Velasco.
You know, I almost wonder if he didn't expect to make that much progress. Because it's not like him to make that far of a dive, and wow, Tomate had a huge hit, was actually up in the air, being scooped up by those front noses. Waller, in the meantime, is getting passed up from that damage as Matt Malone moves himself up into 11th place.
Yeah, if you remember that Velasco actually had that lap 1 instant, so he actually dropped really far back, and I imagine that he could have been a little impatient, wanting to try to get through the pack as quick as he can to get back to his starting position.
Well, we continue to watch Waller try and work his way through that damage. I wouldn't be surprised if he tried for an early pit stop. One of the things we're hearing is that maybe Tomate's damage had slowed him down in the braking zone. So that'll be interesting if we can talk to him post-race, figure out what happened. Meanwhile, let's jump back to George Fike, who seems to be having a great battle going on with Brian Shanahan as he slips up the inside of Turn 5.
Yeah, there's a nice 4-car battle going on there with Vickers. Looks like he's going to get him there in that green car. He's going to be closely on the outside, and George is going to go a little wide, but he's going to have the momentum, and I think he's going to get that position.
And actually, that is Shanahan,
Shanahan
in the green car. Whoa,
sorry
and
about
a
that.
big checkup behind them. His cars have to slow in turn 7. Everybody almost got into each other, including Lance Snyder. I'm sure he's tired of checkups in this race so far, but the doctor is no longer on call, and everybody's on their own as he's led by Marcio Arizona, John LaBaffe, George Fike, and Shanahan, leading this group currently in 18th position. We're getting word, Ayrton, that Para is starting to catch up to his teammate of Rossetto, who has been leading this race comfortably by nearly a second for these first 3 laps. And because Para's catching him, that means that so is Santos.
Yeah, Rossetto's already been making quite a few mistakes. I've already seen him missing a few braking zones. He has to be careful that he doesn't burn out his tires too quickly here, because he could really lose a lot of time if he tries to run too fast too early, and that could really set him at an disadvantage.
And I can just about guarantee that Para is not going to get around Rossetto. I think he's going to be a buffer between him and Santos.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised, as Schmidt has a huge moment there, and he's actually working very hard to try and get by Kyle Potts, who is currently sitting in that 5th position, which has recently swapped. So Schmidt is going to want to try and get back up there and get with his teammate of Bilbao to see if he can help. Down into turn 5, we see Santos try to make a move as Para holds him off and is able to keep up that buffer between his teammate and his championship competitor. Rossetto in car number 83, blue and white. His teammate, car number 17, also blue and white. And then we get into the other team, number 59, Daniel Santos, in that black and white machine. The question is, at what point, Ayrton, does Santos pull over and let Bilbao by?
I don't think it will be until Santos really makes a mistake. I think they have pretty almost identical speed. So if anything, Santos might be a bit faster. He was faster in practice and qualifying. So he may be the faster driver here, and that might just be sitting on his back, just waiting to use him to get up to the front.
And in case you're confused, Santos is in green numbers and green wing mirrors, and red on those for Alex Palau, so it's a little bit easier to tell those two apart. You can see the green there on Santos' machine as we get a nice close-up shot. So as we are getting ready to hit a lap 5 of this 45-minute race, we are down to 36 minutes left, so 10 minutes into this thing, getting close to pit stops now, Bill.
Yes, it is. And, you know, we've seen the teamwork between Rosetto and Para. I'm not sure how much teamwork is going to play in. I haven't really seen it so much between Santos and Palau. We have a spinner, and Anderson.
We've got a huge crash, actually. I'm sorry, Brian Shanahan just got hit by Lance Snyder. Shanahan, and he's on his roof. Let's look at the replay of that. That was in the Canada corner. You can see heading down. We're watching. Shanahan just got a little bit loose out of that turn, spun across the track. Unfortunately, I have to, Bill, I don't like to pass judgment, but I have to put that one on Shanahan for steering his car across the track like that.
Well, I don't know. He was kind of out of control. But what's interesting about these DPs is, like, the front of them are like cow catchers, like on the front of a train, and it really just, like, if you hit something, they go up in the air.
And we were watching on board for a replay of Lance Schneider. Very little time for him to react. We just saw how much it flew that car up in the air. Now we've switched to Wendell Para, currently still sitting in that second position, trailing his teammate of Bruno Rossetto and trying to lead the way ahead of Alex Blau, who's losing just a little bit of time, Ayrton. So maybe they're able to finally stretch that gap.
Well, Palau just made a pass on Santos. They lost a little bit of time. I think Santos was willing to give up that position. Palau was eager to get up onto the rear of Para. And right behind them also, Kyle Potts has been closing, and he was quite a bit faster the previous lap, so he might catch on to this pack.
I think Ayrton's right. I think Santos got out of the way for his teammate.
Yeah, it certainly seems that way at this point. Right now, we're riding on the windshield of Santos, and it looks like I thought we were going to hop over to another car for a second there, but we're still sitting on the 4th place car and seeing these top 3 podium machines work their way around this very long track. Let's see if we can find ourselves a battle a little bit farther down. I hear some words from Derek Waller, and it sounds like Leite might have had some action. Wonder if that was involved with Walker. Going to look at a replay of that. Leite was once again in Canada corner, and it looks like as Leite was heading down, just spun the car out of it. We're seeing it on the replay here in a second.
Was that his teammate that he hit?
Yeah, that was his teammate, and it sent him up over the barriers. We'll see. Oh, and he just was not looking at his F3 box, and his teammate was over the wall, unfortunately, and into the trees. Thank goodness this is sim racing, Bill.
That was Ruben Velasco that he hit. You know, you can't do a donut in front of oncoming cavalry. You got to not make your car a moving target. You just got to leave it there. I know it's painful, but that's a lesson you got to learn, and you learn that early. Yeah,
and we were talking about the danger zones, and I think we failed to mention Canada corners as one of them. We're right on board with Ruben to see what it's like with this car suddenly back up in front of you, working his way through Canada corner. There's some dust, and then vehicle. So and he disappears and reappears back in the pit box as usual with iRacing. So we're back with Wendell Para, our 2nd place car. You can see these top 5 relatively close, Ayrton, but it's been a somewhat uneventful race so far for this top group.
Yeah, Para, he's been close, but I don't think he's trying to make any moves, at least not anytime soon. He might try to make some moves at the end after the pit stops, but kind of holding back his lane. Alex Palau actually catch back up to these two after being slowed down while passing Santos, so this could end up being bad for these guys because Palau is within striking distance now.
And look at the back of this group. We're catching flashes of Kyle Potts, who's kind of been the guy that pick up the pieces throughout this season. In fact, he's made a number of recovery drives to really do a fantastic job getting some good results and get him 5th in the championship. And he's kind of been riding on the coattails of Daniel Santos recently. I'm wondering if that draft is allowing him to really stay with this top group.
And we got to keep in mind that this Potts Santos, it's actually a battle for the championship for 3rd place and possibly for the lead if either Bilal or Rosetto get into any problems. So these guys are going to be battling hard between each other as well.
We have an interesting comment from our YouTube comparing Velasco to Maldonado. Depending on if you're a Maldonado fan or not, I suppose that could be insult or compliment. But up front, we've got some battles going on once again, as it looks like Bilal was trying to work around the outside of Power, but was not able to make it happen, Bill.
Yeah, this reminds me of I'm going to bring up a tragic time. It reminds me a little bit of the Daytona 500 a dozen years ago or so, where Dale Earnhardt was playing defense for his son. Actually, I guess it was Michael Waltrip. Yeah, it looks like Parra is going to make it really hard for Bilal to get around.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that he is going to be extremely defensive, not worried about losing time at all, that's for sure. And they have a little bit of space for it right now, but it can allow Daniel Santos to get up with them. And he could potentially mix it up if he tries to maybe put the attack on Wendell Parra. If he gets by his teammate, maybe he could back him up and allow Bilal a better chance to get on by. But right now, Parra is closing back up on Rosetto down the long kettle bottoms into Canada corner, under braking, everybody accordioning together. But Bilal misses the apex ever so slightly. In fact, his teammate even more so, and starts to lose time as Santos starts to lose the group.
And Bill's right. Alex Bilal won't be able to pass Parra with how defensive he is driving. So I think the best chance for Bilal is actually trying to think about his pit stop, trying to get a spot on pit stop, and try to pass either Parra and Rosetto through the pits. I think that would be his best chance.
Well, unfortunately, one of the disadvantages of such a long track is that it's very long ways before you get battles, because guys can really spread out. But I do see one a little bit farther down the pack between Anderson Moda and John Kelly, and that is for 21st and 22nd position. And wow, Aaron, I don't think we expected to see Anderson Moda fighting for a top 20 at this point.
Well, Moda has pitted already. But yeah, I think out of damage, he's not running very well. Sorry, didn't mean to interrupt there, Aaron, but I thought you guys like to know that he's already come in for his pit stop.
That's actually a good point. I'm glad you reminded me of that. I had not caught that. But that actually is a good indication, because John Kelly is usually one of the early pitters as well, is he not?
Well,
Yeah,
Kelly's also made his pit stop, yeah.
The driver who's the front of the drivers who have pitted is actually Matthew Thill, sitting in 18th place at the moment.
And we're hearing that the aero is extremely sensitive, which makes sense at a track like this. But right now we're watching Matthew Thill work his way around in 16th. And off screen, the battle that we were watching, Moda is actually working his way past John Kelly, even with the damage. And it sounds like, Bill, you've spotted a battle somewhere along the line?
Well, I think it's worth getting these guys some screen time. Matt Malone in that, I'm going to do a color, and they're going to yell at me because of my bad cones and rods. In that gold car, green, I don't know, it's orange. It's gold, the director tells me. Has a nice lead ahead of Derek Waller. These guys have been going at it. They've kind of been pacing each other. Racing nicely in 7th and 8th position.
Yep, and that is Waller trailing there, with Malone just ahead of him, and the number 18 machine down to Canada corner, but not close enough this time by for him to make an attempt. Going to have to work a little bit closer. And as we have some interesting chat going on behind the scenes, it seems like Waller's been doing pretty decently, because he started in 11th. He's made up about 3 spots at the moment, and is looking handy to possibly grab himself another if he can stay with Malone. In fact, he's got a very good run, as Malone has a terrible exit. He goes defensive. This is going to be like trying to hold back a dam, as it looks like Waller is going to just breeze on by on the outside. Malone could still try and outbrake him into turn 1. No, he gives up the ghost and lets him through.
Malone started in 15th position. I don't know if that's who he did. He's had a nice little run up there.
Well, we've switched to up front
Oh.
because we've got a pass going on, although it seems to be going wrong, as it looks like Bilal went too deep, and in fact, he's lost a position to his teammate Daniel Santos, who we suspect will hand that back relatively quickly. But Para once again able to hold him off, but now he's lost a position to Santos, who slips on by in turn 6, the tricky turn 6, Bill.
Woo, that's some good racing up there. And so now we have it. Now we're going to see what we got going on. We're going to see who's the best here.
And the question is, now it looks like Potts has caught up to these guys. Is he going to play nice knowing that there's a championship on the line, or is he going to say, screw it, I want every position I can and try and get by Bilal?
Knowing Potts, I don't think he's going to hold up for anyone.
That's very true. Well, Bilal could have a good opportunity to try and get by Para at this point, because Santos is now ahead of him. If he wanted to, he could try and hold up the blue and white machine just behind him as they head into Canada Corner.
And you know, as far as points goes, Santos can do just as much help by winning this race and getting ahead of Rossetto as he can in doing anything else.
And that's an excellent point, that he might try and work his way up there and see if he can run him down. Right now, as we get ready to cross the line, it looks like Rossetto is going to have a nicely handy gap, and it looks like it's going to be about 1.8 seconds, nearly 2 seconds.
And here goes Bilal. Looks like Bilal's going to make a move for third.
Oh, it's around the outside, and just not quite able to make it past Para. In fact, he's
There
off
goes
track.
Potts.
And Potty takes one more spot, and he's up into 4th. This has been quite a day for Potts. I hate to put the commentator's curse, but he is doing a handy job of hanging with these cars that I have to admit were slightly faster than him, although not by too terribly much. But Bill, he's been doing great.
You know, I got to quote the great sim racer Ice-T. Bilal, you gotta check yourself before you wreck yourself, buddy. Bilal's off again.
Oh, this is not Bilal's day. That's the second mistake in one lap from Bilal. So, in fact, third mistake, I should say, within one complete lap, because it was back at turn 5 that kicked off this whole thing when he made a failed attempt at a pass on Para. Well, it's now starting to go the way of Bruno Rossetto as he starts to stretch his lead, and Santos is trying his hardest to chase him down. Meanwhile, Para is now under threat from Kyle Potts.
Potts is the only car, he's easy to tell, he's the only car that isn't in one of those team liveries there.
Making life a little bit easier for us. He loses a little ground through the fast kink, which some of his arrows probably taken off by the wash of that car ahead of him of Wendell Para. Now down into the braking zone of Canada Corner, closes up ever so slightly, but starts to lose ground. So this might be just a little bit too much for Potts to try and keep up with Para at this point. We'll see what he can do when he gets to the draft zone of the front stretch. We are now heading towards lap 11, and we have 24 minutes left on the clock. In about 2 more minutes, we'll have hit the halfway points for these guys, and most of these guys, in fact all of these guys up at the front, have not hit their pit stop yet. So we have a ways to go before we see how that plays out. And as we've seen, Ayrton, that comes into play heavily in these races, depending on how you can perform in your pit stops.
Oh, absolutely. We've seen a lot of races being made or broken through the pit stop cycle. We've even seen some guys run out of fuel at the end of the race, so it definitely is a big factor, especially on a long track like this. We didn't get to talk about it before the race. If someone short fuels it, they have a very long track to go around with no fuel in their car.
Yeah, this is definitely not the track that you want to play gambling games with on your fuel, that's for sure. We had a question from the comments on how Bilal got past Para, and in all this excitement, Bill, I've kind of forgotten how exactly that had happened. In fact, but Para is actually ahead of him now.
Yeah, it got pretty exciting. Well, Bilal is running back in 5th place now, right? So
it looks like Ayrton's had spotted it.
Oh yeah. Our director means before he went off in turn 5. It was because he got a run. He got a crossover move in turn 2 on Para when Para went wide. So he managed to get the before the straight, but then got the draft.
Schmidt just had it off track and almost put it in the wall, but he's saved it. He's back on, running in 6th place.
That was about, looks like 20 or so seconds ago. Let's see if we can get a replay of that and watch a little bit of a hairy ride for Leandro Schmidt. And actually, I think he did make contact with the wall. Oh, yes, he did. Just barely tapped it. We're going to look back a little bit farther. This is coming into the hurry downs, heading through that right-hand kink there, and then a little bit of a downhill, just enough that it's very easy to overshoot that corner and then try to overcorrect. You can see the rear end. Wow, it really got away from him, even under braking. And then
Santos
under power,
and
there it goes, and it sounds like Ayrton spotted Santos headed in.
Santos and Rossetto.
And the leader, yeah, both leaders. Santos, so this is it right here.
Palau in as well. I think Para is the only one out of the top 5 that stays out.
So no one interested in trying to run a little bit longer to try and jump. Everybody reacts to everybody else. Kyle Potts is in. Alex Palau is in. Leandro Schmidt is in. Matt Malone, top 7 cars are all in the pits. Except for Wendell Para, who goes on to lead the lap. What about George? Wow, look at George Fike. How did he get up into 8th place, Bill?
Oh, I don't think he's pitted yet.
Yeah,
he is
going into
now.
pits now.
Oh.
In fact, just behind him is Mark Robertson.
Now Potts is out. Looks like Potts is going to beat him out.
Potts going to beat him out.
Whoa, this...
Potts beats all of them out.
How did Potts jump with so many drivers? Did he... Bill, this is your favorite line about fuel.
Well, you only need enough to get you to the checkered flag, so maybe he took a little bit less than he needs. We'll see.
We'll have to see. There is a little bit of a random element on those virtual pit teams that sometimes can come into play. So it could have just been that he lucked out with iRacing, but he does have Bruno Rossetto, who's fighting for a championship behind him as he goes defensive, but then he goes back to the line. Bruno takes a little bit of a look down into turn 5. Just behind them, they've got John LeBaff closing in, but Bruno Rossetto is not going to want to sit behind this American for very long, Ayrton.
Oh, yeah. Kyle Potts is going to want to defend this position as well. He has nothing to lose, and this will work great for him in the championship as well, because he's going to get a great lead ahead of Daniel Santos at the moment, who's sitting right behind John LeBaff, between those guys. So he's definitely not out of it either, but definitely a lot of pressure from Bruno Rossetto on Kyle Potts at this moment. Bruno Rossetto does not want to be in second after this pit stop cycle.
And you could see that pressure happening. Sorry,
and
Bill.
Here comes Para into the pits, and I think Potts getting out ahead is going to help Para, because Para was able to run one fast lap while Potts was holding up everybody else, I think.
Very true. Well, we're staying with this battle right now because Rossetto is going to come down the outside into Canada corner. They're side by side. He cannot afford to throw it away at this point. He's got to make a measured move, and he just can't quite get it done. Whoa, huge wiggle from Potty as he holds onto it. Both drivers have been slipping and sliding around the circuit after that pit stop as they were pushing even down in the hurry downs. As we saw on screen earlier, both of the cars slid into there. Now on the front stretch, it looks like Bruno Rossetto's got a very good exit. He's got that draft. He's going to look to the inside. Potty goes defensive. It's going to be a drag race down into turn 1, Bill.
Wow, and Para's still in the pits right now.
And yeah, he's losing quite a bit, and Potty is able to hold on defensively, outbreaks him into turn 1, not able to get the over-under as he just claims the apex from Bruno Rossetto, so he is losing tons of time. In fact, he's got Daniel Santos closing up behind him, and Santos is really going to want to get by to help his teammate out and just chop off a few points on his championship competitor.
I think something's wrong with Para. He went really slow into his stall.
Yeah.
I
think maybe he ran out of gas.
Yeah, it seemed like that. He was running about 15 miles per hour through the pits.
Oh, he lost a ton of time. In fact, right now he's battling with Derek Waller, who he almost pushes off track, but there's no contact, and Waller just went a little bit wide.
Oh, he ran out of gas. He ran it dry.
Oh, we're back up front, side by side between Potts and Rossetto, and Potts is still able to hold on to it, and this has allowed Santos to get right behind these guys, and Rossetto is looking on the inside into the hurry downs. Is he finally able to get it done, and Potty spins it?
Oh, he's going to get hit. That's Alex Palau.
Alex, oh my goodness, championship implications as Alex Palau runs into him. Let's see if we can look at that replay. Coming into turn 8, we're looking at Palau now. and just coming around the corner. He was a little unsighted by the car ahead of him, and it looks like he ran into, I can't tell what that's John LaBaff that he also clipped.
Potts is out. Yeah, Potts left his car.
And he's expressing some dissatisfaction with Bruno Rossetto, but I don't blame Rossetto for being a little bit aggressive there. I mean, Bill, he was fighting for a championship. He had to get that spot.
Well, I'm looking at it again right now, and I don't know what Potty's complaining about there.
There was no contact.
Yeah, no,
he just spun on his own.
That was a driver error if I saw one. So sorry to Potty. It just I don't see any contact there. But anyways, we're currently watching Santos, who is the one who's benefited the most out of this, and he is all over the back of Rossetto, but has lost a little bit of time with a bad exit coming out of turn 1. Meanwhile, it looks like Parra is making a move on Waller for that 8th position. However, I don't think Waller has pitted yet, has he?
Yeah, he came in a long time ago.
Ah, so he's using that alternate strategy. We're hearing that everybody has, in fact, stopped. Here's an interesting one for you, though, Bill. I see that Hiro Kanaya is still on the lead lap, though.
Ha ha! That's my boy, sitting at 21, killing that over-under of 23.5.
And there goes Parra on by Waller, and our director is pointing out that it is a very long lap, but he's making good use of it in that 21st position. So Hiro Kanaya getting the Dory Award once again.
Our director is like he's a glass empty. He's a glass half empty guy, isn't he? Come on.
Well, what do you expect from marketers? But anyways, so right now, let's go through the order, because we haven't in a while, even though we're looking at Hiro Kanaya. Let's go through our leaders. Bruno Rossetto is still leading, but only just by less than a second over Daniel Santos. Alex Bilbao is currently scored in 3rd place, 15 seconds down after that accident. He got held up quite a bit, but he has no one between them at the moment. Leandro Schmidt is sitting in 4th, his teammate, so he can play wingman there. And then Matthew Thill, we haven't really talked about him, started in 10th. He is rounding out the top 5, Bill.
Yeah, well, that's the guy that Ayrton pointed out came in early, made that pit stop. That's really worked out well for him, hasn't it, Ayrton?
Yeah, Matthew Thill, actually his highest position is 4th place season. That was in the first race. Ever since then, he's really struggled. So this is actually a really good position for him right now. He might be able to repeat that 4th place if he can catch up to Schmidt.
Meanwhile, Derek Waller and Sam Ryman, Derek Waller and Bruce Poole, it looks like. Poole on the outside there in that green machine side by side. You don't want to go side by side through this kink, but they are! And Waller pulls on around the outside. Brave stuff, and manages to take the position. And now Parra making one more move, trying to come back after that critical error in his fuel. And it explains why everybody else was pitting when they did. Parra was stretching it very far as he overtakes Samuel Ryman for that 7th position. And it sounds like we have some math from someone, thankfully, other than me. Ayrton, what have you seen about the championship?
Well, if these are the finishing results, not that they will be, anything can happen, but Rossetto will be able to come out with a 3-point lead ahead of Alex Blau, so it'll still be extremely tight.
But you know, Joe,
go ahead, Bill.
that the really doesn't matter, because if it's 2 points one way or 2 points another way, it's basically going to come down to who finishes ahead, Rossetto or Bilbao next race. You know, whether one's ahead by 2 or behind by 2, not going to make a big difference.
Well, this battle we were watching is going to make a difference for these guys. That's Bruce Poole still trying to get past Derek Waller, looking on the inside of turn 6, but he gets chopped off at the nose as Waller is not willing to give up that 9th spot. And just ahead of them, the car that I mentioned earlier, Samuel Ryman, boy, he qualified in 16th, has moved up into 8th. He's done a handy job, especially for not being a regular in this series. And as far as I understand, not a regular in this car either.
No, it's a nice run from him. You know, he's wanted to race for the last couple races. It just hadn't worked out for him. Boy, there's a nice battle going on right behind him. Waller and Poole. And there goes Poole just around him.
Yeah, that's the one we've been watching. Poole finally getting the run, coming out of the carousel and through the kink now, starting to stretch away. Another one that I wanted to mention, Matt Malone qualified 15th, and he is currently sitting 6th. However, He has, oh, that's John LeBaff, excuse me. I thought that was Wendell Para. Para is closing in on him. He's got the laps to do it with about 12 minutes to go. Sounds like we've got a battle which we are looking at on screen between 11th, 12th, and 13th. That's Anderson Moda up in front of them in the black and white machine. Then the orange and black machine of Romer Alcala and George Fikes. Orange and maroon machine just behind them, and not far back we've also got John Kelly in 14th holding on to these guys. So as Alcala goes defensive, look at George Fike pulling in that draft. He goes to the outside. We're hearing that Alcala has damage on his roof holding him back, but he's able to hold the line. Oh, and just barely keeps from getting run into by Fike, but he goes off track and Fike claims the position anyways.
Alcala gave him a sorry George there for that brake check, but that was a nice job of racing by George Fike.
Oh, very heads up. And I would say that he closed off the apex, but both of them were miles off the apex.
Yeah, I think Alcala just overshot the corner, and then Fike was just like, oh, where do I go?
Yeah, had nowhere to go.
That's a silly question. How do you get the damage to the top of your car? Was he upside? Oh, he was upside down, wasn't he?
Well, maybe some angry squirrels in some of these trees along the kettle bottoms or something, as far as I know. But we're looking at Bruce Poole, the battle that's been going on and on between himself and Derek Waller. Waller has gotten back by him now that we somehow missed, so Waller back up into the 9th position. We've got 11 minutes, to go left on the clock. It is getting down to the final laps. Everybody has their pit stops done. There is only 0.7 of a second between Rossetto and Santos. If Santos can close the gap, Ayrton, this is going to be critical that he go and try and make a pass for his teammate, who is 17 seconds back and really can't do anything at this point.
Yeah, if Santos can get ahead of Rossetto, then that will allow his teammate to still have a 1-point lead. Although, as Bill said, it wouldn't really matter that much going into the last race because it's really just who will finish ahead in the last race. But it's still quite valuable because that would just mean it's easier for Blau since he has that drop week available. So if Rossetto has a bad race, he's really in trouble.
And it sounds like we've actually got some information from Kyle Potts as far as what was going on there with his displeasure. And he says he kept putting in inside on me. My fault, but breaking offline is tough, which is a fair point. So that might explain some of his displeasure with the competitor Bruno Rossetto, who continues to lead this race. And keep in mind, momentum still is on the side of Rossetto. He has 3 wins. In fact, the last 2 has been him. This will make 3 on the trot if he can keep ahead of Daniel Santos for the remaining 9.5 minutes.
Yeah, Rossetto has really been on fire, Joe. You're right. That's 3 wins in a row in his 4th race in 8 races. So that's championship money.
Absolutely, but they have definitely been keeping the championship right. And Ayrton, you've made an interesting observation about him, possibly why he's down in the championship right now.
Well, Rossetto, he's only got his wins or all his podiums. He has no top 3 finishes besides his wins, so probably a little bit of inconsistency this season because of that.
I remember earlier on we were surprised when he got his first win at Daytona because he hadn't really been a huge factor before then. So yeah, it seems that maybe he's finally come onto form in the latter half of the season. But let's jump over to Matt Malone, who is under threat from Matthew Phil. Looks like he might try an over-under, and he does in fact, as Phil unfortunately loses speed in the sand trap.
Yeah, Phil's tires are probably really going off at this point since he had that really early pit stop.
That's a very good point, but Matt Malone, wow, now up into 5th place after starting in 15th. He has been one of the biggest movers. Now, remember I mentioned Sam Ryman and Wendell Para, and Para has moved himself up into 7th past Sam Ryman, so he continues to make ground. In fact, he's got not too far to get up to Matthew Thill. He could still get that.
Hiro Kadea is next on the to be lapped list, so maybe we can take a quick look at that as the leaders go by him here.
Yeah, still sitting in that 20th spot, but now we saw just a glance of the leaders chasing him down.
Our director says it's a long way away, but that's, again, he overestimates Kanea. Let's go back to Fike and Moda.
And Moda's been working his way up after some damage, and this is for 12th and 13th position, and it looks like he's already passed him. So just caught the tail end of that battle as Moda works his way up front. And not far behind Fike, though, is Romer Alcala sitting in 13th. We'll see if he can manage to close in on him. However, Moda knows that it's not over as Fike tries to come back around the outside. Is he going to get the over-under? Not quite, as Moda carries his speed through turn 5 and is well clear by the time they hit the top of the hill at 6.
George Fike will race you clean, but he'll race you hard, so... Oh, there it is!
And Moda spins. Did he touch the grass? That was... No, he didn't. Oh, he touched the grass on the exit. I thought it was on the left side. It was on the right side, coming just clipping the dirt. We're going to look at the replay as they now head up to 6. Watch on the right side of his car, and you can just see him start to lose it. And as he tries to recover, snap oversteer.
Not a good day for Moda.
Yeah, this will be one that he will want to forget. And so as we look at the battle between 6th and 5th, and that is once again between Malone and Phil, as Phil is not ready to give up yet.
Yeah, these guys are actually catching up to Leandro Schmidt as well, so this could be a battle for 4th.
Indeed, and I think Schmidt has some damage on his front from what I can see, so that could be what's slowing him up. Same thing with Alex Palau, who's been steadily losing time to the leaders. So Malone and Phil, who've got clean cars, have been making good on that.
Let's go back to the front. It got close. Hiro Kanea did a good job of getting out of the way, but now these guys are running right next to each other, Rossetto and Santos.
And remember, it's a draft track, so if it comes to the last lap, it could be an opportunity for Santos to just hold on behind Rossetto and maybe try and get him on one of these long straightaways. Now heading through the Hurry Downs, you can see Santos in that black and white machine with green trim, following the blue and white machine of Bruno Rossetto, number 83, with 5 minutes left to go.
And that's a 4-point drop for Rossetto if he does get past. See, that starts to make a difference there. That would still give him the lead. I guess he'd be a point behind in the standings still.
We believe a 4-point swing. The points are on a scale depending on how many cars show up, so I'm not entirely sure on if the 4-point will be accurate. But yes, it should be close to that if I recall correctly. But Santos lost a little bit of ground, interestingly, down the Kettle Bottoms and through Canada Corner. So I wonder if he's not as strong through that area. But they've got another lapped car with Goralski now finally letting them over.
Schmidt actually went off track. He lost position to all those 3.
And it sounds like we've got a battle between Parra, Phil, and Malone. So this 2-car battle for 5th and 6th has now become a 3-car battle. And Parra, remember, is one of the fast qualifiers, started on the front row. So he is going to be a guy that they are going to have a hard time trying to keep back.
Parra still has that damage, so that can hinder him.
Well, he's got the draft and a good exit, so let's see if he can carry that speed on past Phil. Phil in the green and black machine, and now he is well clear. Phil can tuck back into line, and it looks like he's going to have to, although he stays wide, and Parra goes defensive slightly down into turn 1 and holds on to it. Doesn't even lose time to Matt Malone, who is next in line, sitting in 4th.
Like my grandmother would say, we should all be so damaged. Man, it doesn't matter if Parra's damaged. He's fast.
Oh, leaders. Santos just got a run on Rossetto, tried to go around the outside, just didn't get it.
And Santos was actually off course in turn 7. Very dangerous place to load the tires in the grass. Manages to hold on to it, doesn't even lose that much time. And he is going to have to do a little bit of work to get back on that. Let's look at the replay of that. Heading uphill into 6. Very difficult corner. It looks like he made a move into 6 and almost got a run on him. Almost shook him. Too wide through turn 7 does not work, but he almost made it work, just goes off and manages to hold on to it. Brave stuff. You can tell Daniel Santos knows what he has to do to help his teammate at this point.
Meanwhile, Thrill and Parra got together and Phil got around him. So that's a the great battle up front. There's a really tough battle for 5th, 6th, and 7th here. Actually,
Phil
4th, 5th, and 6th.
Phil not giving up as Para has to work his way past once again. And remember, Para can actually help as well. If he can catch up to Alex Balau, who actually, no, I'm sorry, that's going to be a little bit too tall, too far up the ways with 2.5 minutes left to go. I was going to say, if he can catch Balau and pass him, he could knock some points off of Balau, but I don't think Phil is anywhere near close enough. However, he makes contact. Managed to hold on to it. No, I take that back as Para now hits the concrete wall on the right side, heading out of the corner. Oh, that was some good hard door banging, and then it all went wrong. As we watch the replay, just got a run on Phil, who went a little wide, and looks like Phil didn't know that he was going to be there, as he almost went for the apex on that little right-hander kink.
I'm wondering if it was retaliation because he got a bump from Para to lose that position.
Yeah, I think Ayrton called it. I don't think there was any love lost between those two guys. And boy, the battle for the lead right now is really close again.
Indeed, as they head around turn 7, and we continue to watch the replay now, we're switching back to live, and Santos losing just a little bit of ground, but will gain it back, under braking into turn 8. Now heading towards the carousel. Wow, he gained quite a bit of ground, actually, a number of car lengths. And as we watch this, it sounds like Phil actually had an off and had a spin.
I think probably some consequences to his little tussle with Para.
I wouldn't doubt it. These cars can be a little bit sensitive to when you damage the suspension and their handling. And we might have the last lap here, actually. We've got about 50 seconds left on the clock.
Rossetto's got to run.
And Santos, actually, I believe, who had a run on Rossetto and wasn't close enough to make it happen. Rossetto went defensive into Canada corner. We've got 30 seconds. I'm pretty sure they're going to make it to the line here, and then we'll get the white flag this time by.
Ayrton, I'm hoping they make it. I want one more lap, don't you?
Yes, it's certainly going to be exciting regardless. 23 seconds, 22 seconds. Yeah, they're just going to get this for the line. White flag this time by.
He's
it's do or die time. He's got to run, as Ayrton says. He's going to look to the outside as Rossetto goes defensive. Both of them braking hard. Oh, and they just make contact. Glancing blow. That knocks Santos off course, and he has lost a number of times. This could be the end of it. Unless there's damage done to Bruno Rossetto, I don't know that Santos can close that ground, Ayrton.
It was so anticlimactic. It was the last lap.
Yeah, and meanwhile, it's not an anticlimax for Matthew Thill and Wendell Para, who are still fighting for what position is this actually?
This might get personal here, boys and girls.
This is for 6th and 7th. Remember, these are the two that came together. Oh, he almost squeezes them off track. They are banging doors once again. He is giving him less than a car length practically as he pushes them all the way to the grass, and both of them this time managed to hold on to it. Phil goes defensive once again. Para dives to the inside. Oh, and he tips him off. Big shunt off track.
I'm so surprised.
Phil exited the course. You sound very genuine there, Bill.
How did that happen?
We're looking at the replay of that action, and I don't know. It's hard to say because he was kind of looking back and forth for the inside and then had a little bit of a weave from Phil. There will definitely be some words after the race, but the story of the race has to be Bruno Rossetto, who has fought back after having to try and fight with Kyle Potts for the lead after getting jumped in the pits. Fought with Daniel Santos for much of the race, held him off, glancing blow side by side, door banging into turn 1, and now with one corner to go, he's got a handy gap back to Santos with no worries, gets a good exit, a climb up the hill for Bruno Rossetto to make it 3 on the trot, 4th for the season. Bruno Rossetto is going to win round 8 at Road America in the DIYSim.com American Road Tour. Daniel Santos does claim that 2nd position. Alex Balau has no threat around. And he is going to get 3rd position. And Ryman and Poole do have a battle going on. This is for 8th and 9th. Ryman going defensive. 7th and 8th, excuse me. And he holds on to it, but it looks like Poole gets the jump coming out of the corner. They're going to go side by side, and Ryman gives up the ghost coming through the kink. He could still come back at him.
And I'm hearing they're going to finish ahead of Para, who did not cross the line.
Interesting. So something happened to Para as well, and Sam's got the jump. Is he going to get him at the line? It looks like he might run out of room. It's going to be so close. Oh, he just misses out by inches to Poole, who comes home in 6th. As cars to continue to work their way across the line, we're looking at John Kelly, who comes home with a handy 11th place. Boy, there's going to be some harsh words after this, Bill. Sounds like that's everyone as, well, no, we've got Lee McGovern still finishing, but most of the positions do seem to be settled as everyone is pretty far apart from each other. So let's go to break. We'll come back after this with unofficial results, hopefully some interviews that don't involve too much swearing. So stick around for some interesting thoughts from the drivers. Welcome back to Road America after a controversial finish with lots of contact between cars. It wound up being Bruno Rossetto who came home with his third win on the trot. Daniel Santos managed to come home in second ahead of Alex Bilbao in third. Matt Malone finished in fourth with Leandro Schmidt claiming fifth. Bruce Poole fought upwards to a very respectable sixth, just ahead of Samuel Ryman pipping him at the line for seventh. Derek Waller finished 8th, followed by Romer Alcala for 9th, and Anderson Moda Ayrton finished 10th.
Then John Kelly got up to 11th, Mark Robertson into 12th, Marcio Arizon in 13th, then Dustin Wardlow in 14th, Lee McGovern in 15th, Matthew Thill in 16th, Wendell Parra in 17th, Michael Goralski in 18th, Hiro Kanaya in 19th, got into the top 20 this time, George Fike in 20th. Bill?
21st, John LaBeouf. 22nd, Kyle Potts. In 23rd, Jonathan Scalaro. Sorry, Jonathan, I gave you the kiss of death there, didn't I? Guillermo Lette in 24th, followed by Ruben Velasco. Brian Shanahan in 27th. Lance Snyder. And that beautiful pink car had some trouble, though, on lap 1, and then it didn't get much better from there. Eduardo Temede in 28th. 29th is Mark Zeidler. And in 30th is Patnik Nguyen. I don't think Zeidler and Nguyen raced today, Joe.
I believe they were a did not start, although I think Zeidler might have started. Excuse me. Anyways, we have some interviews. First up, we have Daniel Santos, who's going to be going to have Anderson Moda translating for him. And we have to ask Santos about that race. It was very close up until turn 1. What happened with that pass attempt?
O Joe perguntou pra ti que você estava andando muito perto a corrida inteira e o que aconteceu naquela curva ali que vocês se bateram.
Bom, foi a última tentativa de ultrapassagem, porque na reta oposta ele tava saindo um pouco melhor na curva, mas acho que foi de race. Parabéns pro Bruno, que fez uma excelente corrida. Eu não estava no meu melhor pace porque treinei pouco nesse intervalo, mas é uma pena também o que aconteceu com o Belão, mas tá valendo. Vamos embora para a última etapa.
Well, Daniel said it was a good race. He could not practice a lot for this weekend, so he was not having a good pace of race, but was fun until the contact. But he's shame about Belão because we're expecting Belão had a best result today. But I just like to say something Daniel didn't say about the start. That I don't know why the cars braked before the start. Everybody was behind. Had a lot of contacts, they destroyed a lot of race. I hope next race you guys don't do that and respect the others who are on the race too.
Early in the race, we saw Santos swap positions with Bilbao. Was that a team called move?
Sorry, Joe, could you ask again, please?
No problem. Early in the race, we saw Santos swap positions with Bilbao. Was that in a team order, or is that something that happened naturally?
Daniel, o Joe perguntou que no começo da corrida você e o Belão trocaram de troca, entendeu? Beleza.
Uhum. Não, foi jogo de equipe realmente. Ali a ideia era que ele não perdesse contato com o Bruno, mas infelizmente eu não entendi o que aconteceu entre ele, o Wendel e o Bruno. Eu acabei me aproveitando e passando os dois, e depois o Belão teve algum contato lá com um retardatário e infelizmente perdeu o contato com a gente, mas foi sim.
Was not a team order, was because we are all the same team and Daniel left the Belão overtake it, but it's not a team order, it's just because we want the Belão to be the champion.
Very considerate of him. Thank you for talking to us. Congratulations on second, and congratulations on 4 podiums in a row. That is impressive.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. See you next race.
And if you'll hold on, Anderson, I believe Bill is going to talk to you real quick.
Yeah, Anderson. It seems to me you took an early pit stop. Did you not? Did you get in trouble early in the race, and that's what happened to you? That's why you came in so early?
Yeah, that pit stop happened because I was complaining about the start. What happened in the start of the race? That I don't know why the guys braked before the race. We all keep our speed and to not have contact in the bottom of the grid.
Right.
And as I had that problems, I could have had to stop it and try to to repair my car that was very damaged.
Yeah, right. So you were one of those. There were so many that got caught up in that incident. Yeah, it was certainly. They certainly took it down pretty slow. Now, how did the rest of your race go after your pit stop? You brought it back up to 10th. Did you have some good racing?
Well, yes, had a lot of fun. Had a great fight with Homer, and do some overtakes and try to survive. My tires were very, very difficult, very difficult to handle in the end of the race. And the best battle that I had during the race was with Homer. I hope to have another great race with him next week.
Well, Anderson, you got to win the first race. Let's see if in the U.S. we call bookends. You get a win on the first race, get a win on the last race, okay?
Thanks, Bill. I hope so.
Okay, thank you. Back to you, Joe.
We have up next, we have Ayrton Ellis talking to Matt Malone, and you talk about a mover of the race. He went from 15th to 4th, Ayrton.
Yeah, thanks, Joe. And Matt, a really good run for you. That almost repeats your best finish of the season and puts you 4th place right after your 3rd place at Road Atlanta. So really good run.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, it was a lot of fun out there, and the main thing was that I just kept it clean, kept out of trouble, and got pretty lucky in some spots and had a really good pit stop. But yeah, my best was a 3rd place. This was 4th place, and it's getting the end of the season, so I'm pretty amped up about that.
So now talking about the end of the season, in the championship, you're in 9th place, and you're not far from John Kelly. Do you think you can get into that 8th place or even maybe 7th place from Derek Waller in that championship, or do you think it's going to be tight?
Well, it's definitely going to be tight because these guys always show up every week, so all I can do is just run my race, try to get the best qualifying score, which I'm not very good at, but then when the race starts, I just try to keep it clean, and things happen for me if I just do like a nice clean race. So that's definitely been my plan.
And yeah, since you've been so good in these in the long stints, you mentioned that you weren't good in qualifying, but you seem to do really well on coming out in the end of the races. Do you think that has to do with your pit stop strategy, or if it's just running consistent laps and saving your tires throughout the race?
I'm not really sure how to save my tires, but my strategy is to try to go as long as I can before I pit, so then that way I can have the freshest tires at the end. Sometimes that bites me and I forget to pit and then I run out of fuel, but yeah, so I try to cut the race in half, which is, with 9 gallons, this thing can only go halfway, so that's when I pit. But yeah, and just try to keep it consistent, keep it clean, catch some draft, and try to make a strong finish.
Yeah, well, a great run again. That was a good battle you had as well with, I think it was Moda at the end there and Thill, so a great run from you again, Matt.
Yeah, thanks a lot, guys, and thanks for broadcasting. It was a lot of fun.
Okay, thanks. Back to you, Joe.
Thank you. Up next, we have our 7th place finisher. And I'm getting some laughs in the booth here. We have our 7th place finisher, and I believe this is Samuel Remain. Is that how you say it?
Something like that, Joe.
Sam, you had a really great race out there, finishing 7th place. Just got pipped to the line at Bruce Poole, but after starting 16th, are you pleased with the top 10?
I am more than pleased, Joe. Honestly, I think you guys just witnessed, and this could be a bad thing, I think you guys just witnessed my best race of all time. I'm amazed I was the only driver who opted to pit at the end of the first lap, because I thought that was the ideal strategy. Pit and get out of the traffic, run some hot laps and get up there. And honestly, with about 10 laps to go, my tires were starting to fall off. I thought I was going to fall the 10th when the cars caught me. I kind of just let them by. And then we had a 3-car pack with about 3 laps to go. Someone made a mistake and it ended up being a 4-car pack and a 5-car pack, and then we were all just scrambling for the best finish. And I fell 0.018 seconds back of 6th at the end there, but I'm alright. I'm thrilled with the 7th place finish.
Now, I know that you're new in this series. Are you a regular driver of this car? Because that's a pretty impressive run if you're not a normal driver in the DP, which can be a little bit of a handful.
It is on the gas and cold tires. The answer is this is actually my 2nd race in this car. I did a race in it in the World Endurance Cup the other day, which was an iRacing series, but that's a multi-class open setup series. And I've got to be honest, I was really glad this was a fixed setup. I got into the practice. I had a practice session the other day, and I just found that it was a whole lot better than the setup I'd been running. I was only about a second off of the fastest times, and that's when I realized, hey, not only am I going to do this race, I might be able to pull a top 10 or top 15 out of it.
Well, you certainly delivered on that, and we have to wonder if maybe you should have jumped into the series earlier on in the season. Could have been fighting for something in the championship. But congratulations on a top 10, and I guess we'll hope to see you back in the final round.
Where is the final round?
Auto Club Speedway.
I don't know. We'll see.
All right. Well, we want to thank a few people before we close up today. Obviously, thanks to the official sponsor, DIYsim.com. Definitely go check out their website and all the racing rigs that they provide. Also, thanks to the VSRA for organizing this league. Thank you to iRacing.com, XSplit, Twitch TV, Audio Technica, Behringer, and AverMedia, the software and hardware that we use to make these broadcasts possible. Thanks to the team today, Kevin, Sam, Bill, and also we had... Kevin, Ayrton, and Bill, and also we had Amjad playing a little bit of spotting for us behind the scenes. If you'd like to find out more about GSRC, you can find it at www.globalsimracingchannel.com, along with archived races and race highlights. We're also on Twitter at GSR Channel and Facebook at /Global Sim Racing Channel. Thanks goes out to Dougie Beard, who creates all the camera sets for the Global Sim Racing Channel, and a special thank you to Eric Ekholm, whose music is not only found here on GSRC, but in TV commercials, movie trailers, iTunes, and Spotify. If you like our music, tell Eric where you heard it at on Twitter at ericekholm.com. Additional thanks go out to Casey Lalonde, who also provides us with the music for our broadcast. You can find more of his music at caseylalonde.bandcamp.com, including his latest album released this month. Next race, as we said, that is at the Auto Club Speedway, Sunday, October 26th at 9 p.m. Eastern, and it is the finale. This is where the championship will be decided. It is between Bruno Rossetto and Alex Bilal. But until next time, race clean, race hard, and I'll see you on the track.